Now, listening to that was the political analyst Elvis Masoga. Elvis, good afternoon to you. I mean, on the one side, I don't know how important one employee like Karl Niehaus in this case is for the ANC. I can see from your smile that you were watching that conversation. On the other side, Karl Niehaus was in the media all the time and I think became a part of the ANC in the public mind in some way.
Yeah, no. Once again, my brother Stephen, let me greet you and all the viewers. Yeah, I was fascinated by, the dual engagement between yourself and Bule, but that's beside the point. Yeah, it's what I can say in relation to Karl Niehaus is that it is both the responsibility of the ANC as an employer and the employee, that happened to be Karl Niehaus, to publicly clarify the details of Karl Niehaus' employment in the ANC in terms of, design job description to say what is it that Karl Niehaus does, because as an employee, obviously the ANC compensate him, but the question will be, they've been compensating him for doing what? Because I believe each and every employee in any organization or institution, he has got a defined job description. So Pule Mabi must not run away from that responsibility on the part of the ANC. Both Karl Niehaus and the ANC, they have an equal shared duty to clarify ANC members and even the nation to say, what are the exact job descriptions of Karl Niehaus? It's not only the responsibility of Niehaus, but also the ANC can clarify that job description.
It's interesting when we talk about the ANC and local government elections, because there is, and I mean the Gauteng City Region Observatory clarified this today. And if you look at the way that people feel about government right now, and particularly, I mean, obviously they focus on Gauteng, we're going to come to Limpopo in a moment, they focus on Gauteng, but I think it is unanswerable that there's more anger and frustration with government than ever. And in fact, President Cyril Ramaphosa said it in his political address to the NEC Lekgotla, the ANC NEC Lekgotla, I think it was on Friday, where he said there's a palpable sense of anger. In other words, a sense of anger that people can feel towards the ANC. How big a factor is that in all of this?
Yeah, one thing that I've observed, and I believe yourself, as a veteran analyst and a broadcaster yourself, Stephen, you'll agree with me when I say, when it comes to local elections or municipal elections, you'll realize that to a large extent, voter behavior is premised upon individual circumstances or the well-being of an individual. But when you compare that voter behavior to national elections, you'll realize that, national dynamics, such as, preference, history and allegiance, plays a very important role as to what determines a person to vote during national elections. But when it comes to local elections, municipal elections, you realize that it is more localized, individual circumstances and the well-being of that individual plays a role as to whether they decide to vote or not, and even which political party they might vote for. Because you find a situation, and there's been a trend, even various empirical opinion research have proved that you find a situation whereby when it comes to local elections, there is a considerable number of people who are prone to vote, not in relation to their preferred political party, but in relation to how convinced are they that this particular candidate or political party might change their circumstances within that municipality. But come national elections, that's where historical allegiance comes into play, because you can't discount, history and allegiance when it comes to voter behavior during national elections. But municipal elections are a totally different animal. People have to be convinced as to what is it that is going to better themselves in relation to that.
I mean, one of the things is that and let's focus on one particular area, for example. And I mean, it's the conversation that actually we had invited you to speak to us about before Pule Mabi and Karl Niehaus. It sort of got in, not quite in the way, but if you know what I mean. And we're talking about the Collins Chabane Municipality, and what we've seen in that area in Limpopo is particular problems. Do you find that, I mean, between different areas, there are different dynamics here. I mean, is the Collins Chabane Municipality an example of this, and particularly the formation of that council, which involved violent protests in the Vuwani area about a decade ago now?
Yeah, maybe there are multi-dimensions to your question, Stevens. But firstly, you are aware that, Collins Chabane Municipality is relatively a new municipality. I think it was created in 2016, if not mistaken. And in light of that, it is predominantly a village-based or a rural municipality, and where even the ANC, the governing party, has been predominantly dominant in terms of, macro politics in that particular municipality. It's even named after one of the stalwarts of the ANC, the late Minister Collins Chabane. But one thing that happens is that, firstly, I've observed a sentiment among voters that says, we believe in political party A, but we've got a problem with the people they deploy to occupy those positions. So consequently, it creates a consciousness whereby you find people unhappy with a particular mayor, but happy with the political party that sent that particular mayor. And that is exactly what has been puzzling many pundits, commentators, and analysts to say why there is a level of dissatisfaction, for example, among ANC members. But come election day, they will continue to vote for the ANC. Because one thing that I've realized that people have, because we are a highly politicized country, political party members have been able to differentiate between an individual that is deployed to occupy public office and the political party. They can blame Elvis Masoga as a mayor, but only to find that they still have confidence in the political party that deployed Elvis Masoga. And that's what complicates, predictions when it comes to election. That's what complicates what is it that will happen on election day? Because people might go to the streets, might toy, might even, indulge in violent protests, but come election day, you will be surprised. Voter behavior is a very complex dynamic, and that's what I've even observed in Collins Chabane. It has been rocked by different violent protests. You remember the Vuwani issue, the Malamulela issue in terms of demarcation. But come election day, they rather choose not to vote than compromise their historical preference. And that's exactly what happens when it comes to voter behavior, Stephen.
There's so many different dynamics. And I mean, one of the fundamental questions of this time, and perhaps of this election, is are people going to blame the way their life has changed? And I mean, I think this is unarguable. For 80–90% of people in this country, life has got worse in the last year, worse since the start of the pandemic. Are people going to blame the pandemic for that, or are they going to blame the government in power, which is what's happened in other democracies?
A very interesting and fascinating question, Stevens. And it's unfortunate to observe that to date, there is no any empirical research that has been able to delve into the attitudes and consciousness of people in terms of accountability to say what percentage of South Africans right now will blame COVID-19 for their worsened situation in terms of service delivery. What percentage of people will blame politicians or government leaders for their worsened situation in terms of service delivery? It's unfortunate we don't know right now. And to a large extent, it even complicates our ability as analysts to can preempt or even predict the outcomes of municipal elections. Because right now, since last year, March, our country was besieged by COVID-19. It has changed and worsened the economic and financial situation of so many people. But up to now, we don't have a quantifiable research data that, clarify us as to what percentage of South Africans will rather blame COVID-19 for their situation rather than blaming government or political parties. And it's not that clear. But up until we delve into that research, we will be able to can create a thorough picture of expectation as to what will happen on election day. But we must never, as part of the media, yourself and myself, we must never discount the possibility that there might be some South Africans who blame COVID-19 rather than government when it comes to their worsened situations.
And Elvis, I mean, the other thing is that we can't really, I mean, we will have campaigning, sure. It's not going to be campaigning that we're used to. We're not going to have a full FNB stadium. We're not going to have what we're used to, which means there's actually very little opportunity for political parties to do two things: to change the minds of people and to get out the vote, which means we're likely, despite all the failures of local government, and I'm not quoting anyone apart from the Auditor General on that because she's a neutral body, but we're going to have, at a time of great crisis in local government, we're going to have a very low poll, a very low percentage of people voting.
You know, it's allowed me to be a little bit, controversial, Stevens. You know, my own observation, especially post-1994, is that, I don't think, lobbying, campaigning, and canvassing ahead of elections will generally change the outcomes of elections at all. You know, I tend to think that our political parties are just wasting for their money for nothing, because South Africa, it has become a highly politicized country. We just emerged from the liberation struggle, and you can't discount the impact of history on voter behavior. So because of that, I've observed that even 4 months before election, or even 6 months before elections, more than 95% of voters will know which political party they are going to vote for. So that is exactly what makes me to believe that actually, to invest millions of rands into your campaign that is very unlikely to alter the outcome of elections, it's a waste of time. I'd rather advise political parties to urge their members in going to vote rather than trying to convince people in voting for them. So there's a difference between urging people to go and vote rather than urging people to vote for you. Because you can do whatever you like at the end of the day. When they are at the voting booth, they listen to their conscience, they listen to their hearts, they listen to their minds, they vote for what they believe is right for them, irrespective of their situation. So to a large extent, campaigning doesn't have any impact at all as to how people will vote on voter day. Maybe let me create a scenario here, Stephen. Maybe we can create an experimental group and a control group and say, let us declare election day, but no campaigning. No campaigning at all, but urge people to go and vote. I don't want to lie to you. You'll observe a continuity in terms of the trends of voting as compared to the previous elections.
Elvis Masoga, thank you very much indeed for your time. I really do appreciate it, the political analyst. Well, while I've been speaking to Elvis, there's been a little bit of another development in the Karl Niehaus, do I call it saga yet, or is that too soon? He's now written a letter in response. So this is the letter responding to the demand that he write a letter explaining why he should not be fired. It says, Ambassador Karl Niehaus. It says that the threat to terminate my employment in the ANC without further notice and without a disciplinary hearing is illegal. He says the short notice of a mere 2.5 hours to provide reasons why I should not be dismissed summarily is draconian and most unreasonable. It is contrary to the laws of natural justice. It is his contention that this is constructive dismissal. Now, he goes on to explain what happened around a media statement which he issued, in which he said that he and other ANC staff members, well, perhaps just himself, would actually be lodging a criminal charge against the ANC for its failure to pay the salaries of its workers. The document does go on. It goes on to 11 points. He says at the end he provides all of the above his reasons why being dismissed summarily would be fundamentally wrong, draconian and illegal. The letter from Karl Niehaus soon to arrive, I suspect, on a WhatsApp group near you.